The visit was supposed to be peaceful, or at least that's what everyone had been told. The human soldier had been chosen as part of a small observation group, nothing more. He wasn't there to fight. He wasn't there to impress anyone. And he certainly wasn't there to be noticed by an alien queen. He was just another uniform in the background, watching and learning. He had been trained to keep calm in strange places, but even he had to admit that standing inside the grand hall of the alien palace felt surreal. The walls shimmered with soft colors that shifted like slow-moving waves, and the floor felt warm under his boots, almost like it was alive. The air carried a gentle hum, a sound he couldn't quite place something between a heartbeat and a whisper. The alien queen entered with a quiet grace that made everyone stand straighter. Her presence felt heavy, not in a frightening way, but in a way that made people instinctively respect her. Her guards marched in with their heads high, wearing armor that looked more like polished stone than metal. Their eyes swept the room, sharp and alert. The human soldier stayed at the back, doing what he was told. Observe, stay out of the way, don't interfere. That was the rule. The queen glanced toward the human group for only a second. Her expression didn't give anything away, but even that small moment made the soldier straighten his shoulders. She had a certain calmness about her that didn't match the stories he had heard. People said she was strict, cold, always guarded. But standing here, she looked more thoughtful than stern, as if she carried the weight of an entire world gently instead of forcing it down. The hall was quiet as the meeting began. She spoke with the human envoys, her voice soft but steady, every word carefully chosen. The soldier couldn't understand her language directly, but he watched the translators nod and respond. Everything seemed smooth. Everyone seemed relaxed. But peace is a strange thing. It can disappear in a single heartbeat. A vibration moved through the floor. At first, it was so light that nobody reacted. The soldier thought maybe it was some kind of machinery beneath the palace. But then the ground trembled again, harder this time, enough that the shimmering patterns on the walls flickered. Some of the queen's guards exchanged worried glances. One of them placed a hand on the hilt of his weapon. The human soldier felt the tension rise in the room like unseen smoke. Then the sound came. A deep, rumbling growl that didn't sound like any creature he knew. It rolled through the halls, so loud that even the translators froze. The alien queen turned her head slightly, her eyes narrowing with concern. She didn't panic, but her guards did. The growl came again, louder, closer. The hall door shook out. The soldier's instincts sharpened immediately. He had heard noises like that before, maybe not exactly the same, but close enough to know what came right after. Something dangerous was approaching. The queen's guards stepped back, their composure breaking. One of them shouted something in their language, the words sharp and afraid. The soldier didn't know what the guard said, but the meaning was clear from the panic in his voice. 3 of the guards backed away completely. One dropped his staff, letting it clatter across the floor. Their eyes were wide, and their breathing had turned fast and uneven. They weren't ready for whatever was outside that door. The queen looked at them, surprise flickering across her face. Not anger, not disappointment, just shock that her own protectors were reacting this way. She took one slow step backward as the doors shook again. The human envoys panicked, too. One of them grabbed the soldier's arm and whispered, "We need to get out." But the soldier wasn't listening. His attention was locked on the doors. Something told him that running wouldn't help, not for him. Not for anyone still standing in that hall. The doors crashed open. A large creature forced its way through. Its body covered in thick, rough skin that looked like it had been scraped against stone for years. Its eyes were wild, almost glowing with confusion or rage. It wasn't huge enough to crush the hall, but it was big enough to tear apart anything that got too close. The creature roared, its voice echoing through the room. The floor vibrated beneath its weight, The Queen's remaining guards didn't wait to see what it would do. They backed away quickly, some turning and running entirely. The soldier watched them flee, shocked that the trained royal guard would abandon their queen so easily. And then he saw her. The alien queen stood frozen in the center of the hall, her eyes on the creature, her breath shallow but steady. She wasn't screaming. She wasn't running. But she was unprotected. The human soldier didn't think. He didn't decide. His body simply moved. He rushed forward, pushing past the envoys, past the Queen's guards who were still retreating, past the falling dust from the broken doors. He stepped in front of the Queen, like he had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times. Although he had never imagined it happening, his heart pounded. But his voice stayed steady as he said over his shoulder, "Stay behind me." The Queen didn't argue. She didn't question why a human, someone who wasn't even part of her guard, was stepping in front of her. She simply took a step back, trusting him in a way that surprised them both. The creature's eyes locked onto the soldier. It growled, lowering its massive head as if preparing to charge. The soldier tightened his grip on the small weapon at his belt, knowing it wasn't nearly enough against something this size. But he didn't move away. He planted his feet firmly, shoulders squared, ready to face whatever came. Every sound in the hall faded. Even his fear faded. All that remained was the choice he had already made to protect the Queen. Even if nobody else would, the creature stomped forward, heavy and slow. The soldier felt its breath hit his face, hot and foul. But he didn't step back. Behind him, the Queen watched silently. Her eyes were wide not in fear, but in something closer to disbelief. She had ruled for years. She had seen war, unrest, betrayal. But she had never seen someone from another species step in front of her without hesitation, without being ordered, without expecting anything in return. The hall remained tense and silent, except for the creature's growl and the soldier's steady breathing. The alien Queen's own guards had fled. But the human soldier stood there like a wall, not because he was strong enough, not because he was fearless, but because someone needed to protect her. And he was the only one who chose to stay. And in that moment, even before anything else happened, even before the creature made its next move, the Queen understood something she had never realized before. Sometimes loyalty doesn't come from duty. Sometimes it comes from heart. The creature's growl filled the hall like thunder rolling across a quiet field. Dust drifted from the broken doorframe, settling around the soldier's boots, but he refused to step back. His pulse was fast, but his breathing stayed steady, the way he had been trained. In front of him stood a creature he had never seen before, one that didn't look like it belonged inside a palace or anywhere near a royal hall. Behind him stood the Queen, silent and still, trusting him more than her own guards had. The creature shifted its weight, its heavy feet scraping across the polished floor. It wasn't just big. It was tense, confused, almost frightened. Sometimes fear made things more dangerous, and the soldier knew that. He couldn't tell if it wanted to attack, run, or destroy everything in its path. All he knew was that he couldn't let it reach the Queen. For a moment, the hall was completely silent. Even the translators had fallen quiet. The human envoy stood pressed against the walls, staring with wide eyes, not knowing whether they should run or stay. The Queen's remaining guards hid behind pillars, their weapons shaking in their hands. The soldier didn't look back at them. He kept his focus on the creature, lowering his body slightly, the way he had been taught, to protect, not provoke. But the creature wasn't waiting. It let out another harsh growl and took a heavy step forward. The soldier felt the floor vibrate through his boots. He pulled out his small sidearm, knowing it wasn't strong enough to bring down a creature this size. But he needed anything to slow it if it charged out behind him. The Queen finally spoke. Her voice was soft, almost afraid to break the air. "Why are you standing there?" she asked quietly. He didn't turn around. "Because you're behind me," he said. "That's enough reason." The queen didn't say anything after that. But her silence felt different now, heavier, as if she was trying to understand something she had never expected. The creature snarled, raising its head just enough to show a row of sharp, uneven teeth. Its skin rippled with every breath. The soldier realized that the creature wasn't just dangerous. It was scared, pushed into a place it didn't belong. A scared creature could be even more unpredictable. Slowly, the soldier raised one hand, palm upward, hoping the creature might sense he wasn't a threat. Maybe it would slow down, maybe even stop. He had dealt with frightened animals before. Sometimes a calm gesture was enough. Sometimes at WASN single quotes T. The creature didn't slow. It lowered its head and scraped its claws against the floor, preparing to lunge. The soldier tightened his grip on his weapon. His muscles tensed. If it attacked, he would move first. He didn't plan to win. He just needed to buy time until help arrived. But before the creature could attack, something unexpected happened. The queen stepped closer, just barely, but enough that the soldier sensed her movement. He whispered sharply, "Stay back," not to be rude, but because every part of him was focused on keeping her safe. "I can help," she whispered. "How?" he asked quietly, still watching the creature. Her answer didn't come through words at first. Instead, the air around them shifted, a soft vibration, almost like the hum the palace walls had before things went wrong. It grew slowly, not enough to alarm the creature, but enough for the soldier to feel it gently move past his shoulders. The queen raised one hand. Her fingers relaxed, her posture calm. She didn't look afraid anymore. She looked focused. A faint glow traced the air around her hand. Nothing bright or dramatic, just a soft shimmer like moonlight on water. The soldier didn't know what she was doing, but the creature suddenly paused. It blinked, confused, its growl fading into a low rumble. The soldier realized it wasn't freezing from fear. It was slowing down as if something was gently holding it back. "What is that?" he whispered. "Just enough to calm it," the queen said, her voice steady again. Nothing more. Her hand didn't shake. Her expression stayed firm. She wasn't trying to hurt the creature, only to stop it from hurting anyone else. Whatever ability she was using, she controlled it with practiced ease. The creature's breathing slowed. Its massive chest rose and fell like a tired animal rather than an enraged one. The queen kept moving her hand in a slow, circular motion. She didn't force the creature still it, simply drifted into stillness the way a storm dies, into quiet rain dot when the creature finally lowered its head slightly. The soldier risked stepping forward just a little, shifting himself to keep shielding the queen, while also trying to understand what she was doing. Behind them, the guards watched with disbelief. They had trained their whole lives to protect the queen, yet they had run. A human, someone who wasn't even part of their ranks, had taken their place. And the queen had acted calmly beside him, almost like they were working together. One of the guards whispered something in their language, but the soldier didn't turn to look. He didn't care about their shock. He cared about the creature in front of him and the queen behind him. The creature took one slow step backward, its body less tense now. But suddenly, as if remembering the damage it had caused, it let out one frustrated roar and swung its arm across the floor. The soldier moved without thinking. He pushed the queen back, shielding her with both arms, as the creature's swing sent a heavy piece of broken stone across the room. It crashed into the ground only inches from where she stood. She gasped quietly, not because she was afraid of the creature, but because the soldier had placed himself so close to her, protecting her with his whole body again. The soldier didn't step away, even after the debris settled. "Are you hurt?" he asked quickly. She shook her head. "No," You? I'm fine, he said, though his heart was pounding so hard, it felt like it might break through his chest. The creature staggered again, clearly confused now. The queen raised her hand once more, strengthening the soft glow around her fingers. This time, the creature seemed to finally understand that it wasn't being attacked, it was being calmed out slowly. It backed away from them, its heavy steps echoing less like thunder and more like tired footsteps. It turned toward the broken doorway and let out one final growl, not of anger but exhaustion. Before dragging itself outside into the corridor, the hall went silent. The glow around the queen's hand faded gradually until it disappeared completely. She lowered her hand and took a deep breath, her shoulders relaxing for the first time since the tremors began. The soldier stayed where he was, still facing the creature's exit, making sure it was truly leaving. After a moment, the queen spoke again, her voice soft but clear. You didn't have to stand in front of me like that. He turned slightly, not fully facing her. Someone had to. There were guards, she said quietly. They ran, he replied, not as an insult, just the truth. She looked down for a moment, her expression unreadable. And you didn't, she whispered. He scratched the back of his glove, suddenly unsure what to say. I wasn't thinking about anything else. I just saw you there. The queen studied him like she was trying to understand a new language. Humans, she whispered, as if she had just learned something important about his entire species. The guards approached slowly now, ashamed, confused, and surprised. They didn't know how to explain their fear or their retreat, especially not in front of their queen, who had remained calm. But the queen didn't look at them. Yet, her attention stayed on the human soldier who stood in front of her, like a shield made of courage and instinct rather than armor and training. He finally lowered his weapon and stepped back a little, creating space. But the queen didn't move. She simply watched him, her eyes filled with something he couldn't name. Respect? Gratitude? Maybe both. What she did know, what everyone in that hall knew, was that the moment the creature burst into the room, only one person chose to stand between danger and the queen. A human, someone who wasn't supposed to fight, someone who wasn't ordered to, someone who acted because it felt right. And that moment changed everything. The hall was still filled with dust, but the danger had finally stepped away. For a moment, nobody knew what to do. Everyone stood frozen, like their minds were still trying to catch up with what had just happened. The creature had left the room, but its presence still hung in the air like a shadow. The human soldier looked toward the broken doorway, listening carefully. He didn't hear any growling or heavy footsteps anymore. Still, he didn't relax. A creature that size didn't just disappear. It could return at any moment, and he had no intention of letting the queen face it unprotected. He turned slightly to check on her. She was standing a few steps behind him, breathing a little harder than before, but still holding her composure. Her calmness surprised him again. Most people, human or alien, would be shaking after standing so close to something like that. But she kept her posture straight, her eyes steady, almost thoughtful. He expected her to step backward, or move toward her guards, or even sit down to recover. But she didn't. Instead, she took a small step closer to him. You stood your ground, she said softly, almost like she was still trying to understand it. He gave a small shrug. Someone had to stop it. You did more than stop it, she said. You gave me time. You protected me. She paused as if searching for the right words. Even when you knew you might not be strong enough. He didn't know how to respond. He had acted on instinct, not heroism. He didn't think he deserved her tone, which almost sounded like she was speaking to someone very important, someone she trusted. That made him uncomfortable, not because it felt wrong, but because he wasn't used to it. He looked away, clearing his throat. "Are you sure the creature won't come back?" The Queen's eyes shifted toward the doorway as well. "I slowed it, not stopped it. It will return if something upsets it again." That answer didn't comfort him at all. The guards finally approached them slowly, still embarrassed. Their armor rattled slightly as they walked, revealing how unsettled they were. One of them tried to explain something in their language, his tone apologetic. But the Queen didn't respond. She didn't even turn her head toward them. She kept her attention on the soldier, which visibly made the guards even more uncomfortable. He felt awkward being the center of her focus, especially when her own protector stood nearby, unsure of how to face their Queen after running away. Suddenly, a deep rumble echoed through the palace again. It wasn't as loud as before, but enough to make the floor tremble lightly. The soldier snapped into defensive mode immediately, stepping in front of the Queen again without even thinking. She didn't stop him this time. She didn't even flinch. She simply stood behind him, like it was the most natural thing to do. The guards started whispering nervously among themselves. Some reached for their weapons. Others backed away a little, clearly unsure of what to expect. The rumble grew louder, traveling through the walls like a distant storm. The soldier tightened his grip on his weapon, though he knew it was useless against something that size. Still, it made him feel like he had some control. "What is that thing?" he asked quietly. The Queen's voice was calm, but there was a hint of sadness in it. "A guardian beast. It's not supposed to be violent. Something must have disturbed it." He frowned. "Disturbed it how?" She didn't have an answer. She looked troubled, and that bothered him more than the noise. Before they could plan anything, the creature appeared again at the doorway. This time it didn't charge. It stood there, breathing heavily, its massive chest rising and falling. Its eyes locked onto the soldier first, then shifted to the Queen. It let out a low moan, not a roar, not a growl, but something softer, almost desperate. The soldier felt his muscles tense again. He didn't want to fight it. He didn't want to hurt it. But he would not let it near the Queen. The Queen stepped forward slightly, and the soldier instinctively lifted his arm to stop her. "Careful," he whispered. "I must try again," she said quietly. She raised her hand slowly, exactly the way she had before. The soft glow returned, but this time it flickered like it was struggling to stay bright. The creature didn't react immediately. It shifted its weight, confused or impatient. The Queen closed her eyes to focus. The glow steadied, spreading gently toward the creature like a calming wave. Slowly, the creature's anger seemed to loosen again, its body relaxing. But then something unexpected happened. A loud alarm blared from deep inside the palace. It was sharp, piercing, and the creature roared instantly, as if the sound had stabbed its senses. Its calmness shattered. The Queen gasped, losing control of the glow. The creature turned wild again, thrashing against the walls. The soldier stepped in front of the Queen once more. "Stay back." This time, the creature lunged out. The impact shook the floor as it slammed into a nearby pillar, sending shards of stone scattering across the hall. Dust exploded into the air, blinding everyone for a moment. The soldier coughed, waving the dust away while still scanning for the creature. The Queen stumbled backward slightly. The soldier grabbed her arm to steady her. She didn't pull away. Her hand clung to his wrist for balance before she let go. The creature roared again, swinging its massive arm. The soldier barely dodged the attack, pulling the Queen with him. The force behind the creature's swing cracked the floor, where they had been standing seconds earlier. The guards panicked again, some running behind the pillars, others shouting in fear. They didn't know how to handle the creature, and their fear made everything worse. The Queen looked at the chaos around her and whispered, "This is my fault." The soldier turned sharply. "How?" "It reacts to strong vibrations," she said. The alarm. It heard it. Then we stopped the alarm, he said. The Queen blinked in surprise. You would do that? He didn't answer with words. He simply scanned the hall, trying to locate where the alarm was coming from. It seemed to echo from a corridor to the right. He calculated the distance in his mind. If he moved fast, he could reach it. But he couldn't leave the Queen alone. She seemed to read his thoughts. I can hold it for a moment, she said softly. Not long, but enough. He looked at her, unsure. Her hands were shaking now, her glow weaker than before. She wasn't as steady as she had been the first time. You don't have to, he began. I must, she said firmly. This creature protects our palace. If we hurt it, we lose part of our history. She stepped forward, her glow returning slightly. The creature reacted to her presence, but didn't charge yet. It watched her like a confused child watching a parent. The soldier took a breath. He didn't like leaving her, but he trusted her, and she trusted him. He ran toward the corridor, moving fast but staying low. The hallway was long, and the alarm grew louder as he approached the control panel. He slammed his hand against the emergency stop button. The alarm cut off instantly. Silence flooded the palace. He turned and sprinted back to the hall. When he reached the entrance, he saw the Queen standing with her hand raised, the creature now breathing slowly again. Her glow was fading, but she had held long enough. The soldier approached cautiously. Are you okay? She exhaled shakily. Yes, you stopped the sound. The creature finally lowered itself onto its front legs, exhausted. The Queen placed her hand gently on the air, as though she were touching it from a distance. The creature blinked slowly, then turned away and walked out through the broken doorway, disappearing down the corridor. Everyone watched silently until it was gone. The Queen lowered her hand. Her shoulders trembled slightly, not from fear, but from exhaustion. The soldier stepped closer. You did it. She shook her head. We did it. He didn't correct her. He watched her for a moment, realizing something he hadn't noticed before. She wasn't just a ruler. She wasn't just someone standing above everyone else. She was someone who cared deeply, even for a creature that scared her, and she had trusted him, really trusted him. The guards approached again, looking ashamed. They didn't know where to stand or what to say. They had failed, and they knew it. The Queen didn't scold them. She didn't raise her voice. She simply looked at them with quiet disappointment, and that was enough to make them lower their heads. She then turned back to the human soldier, her expression soft. You stayed when no one else did, she said. I will remember that. He didn't know what to say, so he just nodded in that quiet moment. Something changed between them, something unspoken but real. The guards might not have noticed it. Nobody else might have understood it. But both the soldier and the Queen felt it clearly. A strange partnership had formed. Not by choice, not by duty, but by the way they protected each other when it mattered most, and that bond was only going to grow stronger. The palace slowly returned to silence, but the weight of what had happened still hung in the air. Dust floated down from the shattered walls, catching light from the flickering hall lamps. Even the guards, who usually stood firm and proud, looked unsure of their next steps. They kept glancing at the Queen, then at the human soldier, as if trying to understand how everything had changed so suddenly. The Queen didn't speak at first. She stood in the middle of the room, breathing deeply, her hands still slightly trembling after using her energy to calm the guardian beast. Her calm expression had returned, but there was a softness in her eyes that wasn't there before, something warmer, something thoughtful. The soldier looked at her quietly. He didn't want to interrupt her moment of recovery. He simply waited, ready to help if she asked, ready to step back if she didn't. He didn't consider himself special or important. He just wanted to make sure she was safe, one of the guards finally broke the silence. He bowed deeply and said something in their native language, his words apologetic. The queen listened without looking angry, but she also didn't interrupt him. When he finished, she nodded slowly. Her face wasn't harsh, but the disappointment was still there. Resting behind her calm eyes, "You may return to your stations," she said gently. The guards bowed again and moved away, their footsteps heavy with shame. They didn't look at the soldier. They didn't need to. His actions had spoken loudly enough for everyone. Once they left the hall, only the queen, the soldier, and a few shaken envoys remained. The envoys quietly stepped out as well, giving space to the queen and the soldier. Sensing this was a moment meant only for the two of them, the hall door closed behind them with a soft echo. The soldier finally spoke. "Are you sure you're all right?" The queen looked at him with a tired smile. "I am still standing, thanks to you." He shook his head lightly. "You did most of the work. I just stood in the way." "That is more than you realize," she said softly. Her words made him look down, unsure how to respond. He had never been praised by someone with so much authority. He didn't know how he felt about it. He wasn't used to attention like this. He wasn't used to being the center of anyone's focus. The queen walked toward a nearby balcony that overlooked the palace courtyard. Most of the damages from the tremors were visible from their broken pillars, cracked floors, guards running around trying to restore order. She stood at the edge of the balcony and breathed in the cool outside air. The soldier followed her slowly, but he didn't stand too close. He didn't want to disturb her thoughts. Instead, he leaned lightly against the wall beside the balcony entrance, keeping a respectful distance, a guardian beast. She began after a moment. "It has lived here longer than most rulers. It protects our palace from threats. But it has been restless lately, because of the alarms?" He asked. "Partly," she replied. "But I think it sensed the tension in the palace long before today." He frowned slightly. "Tension?" She nodded. "Some within my court are unhappy with the changes I have made. They want the old ways back, ways that kept outsiders away." He understood what she meant. She didn't need to explain further. Change was hard in any world, human or alien, and me being here probably didn't help, he said with a dry smile. She turned to him, her expression gentle. "Your presence helped more than you know." Then she looked away again, her voice softening. "You protected me when others stepped back." He didn't know what to say, so he stayed quiet. After a few seconds, she stepped away from the balcony and walked toward him. Her footsteps were slow and quiet. When she reached him, she stopped just a few feet away, close enough to speak softly without the whole hall hearing. "Why did you do it?" she asked. Her voice wasn't demanding. It wasn't curious in a shallow way. It was sincere, deep, as though she truly needed to understand. The soldier took a breath and looked at the cracked floor. "I don't know," he said honestly. "I saw you there, and the creature was coming, and my body just moved before I could think." "That is not a common instinct," she whispered. He shrugged slightly. "Maybe, but it felt right." The queen watched him for a moment. Her eyes softened even more, almost as if she was memorizing his answer. "You could have been hurt," she said. "So could you?" he replied. Her lips parted slightly, as though she didn't expect him to answer so simply. She took a small breath and stepped a little closer, not enough to invade his space, but enough to show she didn't feel distance between them. "I owe you my life," she said softly. He shook his head. "No, you don't." "Yes," she insisted gently, "I do." He felt uncomfortable receiving such gratitude. He wasn't used to being seen this way, especially by someone who ruled an entire world. He looked away again, rubbing the back of his glove with his thumb. She studied him carefully. "You don't like praise?" "It feels strange," he admitted, And I won't praise you, she said lightly. I will simply tell the truth. She stepped back and looked around the damaged hall. If you had not been here, I might not be standing now. He sighed quietly, not knowing how to respond without sounding awkward. But she didn't push him for a reply. Instead, she motioned for him to follow her. Walk with me, she said. He nodded and walked beside her, not behind her like a guard, not ahead of her like a hero, but next to her, like someone she trusted. They walked through the palace corridors, passing workers who were clearing debris. Every time someone saw the queen, they bowed deeply. But then their eyes shifted to the soldier, and their expressions changed. Some looked curious, others surprised, and some even grateful. Word had spread fast that the queen didn't react to the stares. She kept her pace steady, and the soldier matched her steps quietly. When they reached a quiet indoor garden, one protected from the damage, she stopped near a small water fountain. The sound of the gently flowing water made the room feel calm. This place is for peace, she said. A place to breathe. He looked around slowly. The garden felt untouched by the chaos outside. Soft light filled the room, and the scent of flowers drifted faintly through the air. It's beautiful, he said quietly. She nodded. I come here when my mind is heavy. He glanced at her, noticing the exhaustion in her eyes. She had been strong all day, calm during the danger, firm with her guards, thoughtful with him. Now, in the quiet garden, she looked more human than he had ever seen her. You've had a long day, he said gently. She gave a soft smile. So have you. They both stood quietly for a moment, listening to the water. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like a kind of understanding had formed between them, a quiet bond built through danger, trust and instinct. The queen finally turned to him. There is something else I must tell you. He stood still, waiting. In my world, she said softly, those who protect the monarch in their most vulnerable moment are considered more than just guards. She paused, searching for the right words. They become part of the inner circle, trusted deeply, respected openly. He blinked. Are you saying I'm... Yes, she said gently. From this day forward, you are someone I trust with my life. He didn't know how to react. He wasn't expecting anything like this. He wasn't a high-ranking officer or a decorated hero. He was simply someone who did what he thought was right. I didn't do it to earn a title, he said quietly. I know, she replied. That is why you deserve it. Her words felt heavy in the best way, honest, real, and full of meaning. She stepped closer, her voice softer now. And I want you to stay. He stared at her, unsure if he understood correctly. Stay? Here? Yes, she said. In my court. By my side. He swallowed, unsure what to say. But she continued before he could answer. You saved me without hesitation, she said. And when everyone else ran, you were still standing. Her eyes held his gently. I do not want to lose someone like that, she whispered. He felt his heartbeat slow, then quicken, then settle again. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for sure. This moment would stay with him forever. He nodded slowly. If you need me, I'll stay. A soft, relieved breath escaped her lips, almost like she had been carrying that hope silently. Then we walk forward together, she said, and in that quiet, peaceful garden, far away from the chaos and fear that had shaken the palace, they both understood something simple but powerful. They were no longer just a queen and a soldier. They were two lives bound by a moment of instinct and courage, a bond that neither of them expected, but both of them trusted.